Hello and welcome to Ranked Ramble. In this episode, it's the 11th hour before we return to Ravnica, which is unsurprisingly my favourite plane. Would never guess her since I'm a two-colour aficionado. The plane built on the premise of two-colour guilds is my favourite. But yeah, this will be the last week we are playing the fully optimised Niftalite list. I'll put this list that I ran in the description below, and obviously fully optimized. I would say this is the competitive Niv main list. Like, if you were to invest money into making a Niv Mizzet deck, I would use, well, if you were going to invest your wildcards, I would invest in this version as the powerhouse version, and the variants that I play, because I have excess wildcards because I only make these decks, I get to do fun things from there. So, before we go and get any match breakdowns, we have the full set for Ravnica Remastered. We've had the point where I'm recording the audio for this. We've had the pre-release. Sadly, I didn't get to go. I was busy, but I did get one of the packs because my game store held on to a few things for me because they know how much I love this plane and this set. But let's talk about what's going to happen with the next Rank Ramble and moving forward. I am going to be returning to the Amelia Wildgrowth Walker combo. Now, I know I made a video previously where there was going to be potential danger of this combo potentially getting too powerful or getting banned, but I still think that's a long way off. I think that we're in a pretty good place with it. And this set is loaded with support for it. What we will be trying next week in the deck list going forward, we will be using a few things. We'll be using the OG Lightning Helix. I mean, I still play that in Modern for fun. And we'll be using Breakout primarily as kind of like, many people know I play Wandering Mind to dig for interactive spells. We can use Breakout as a kind of way to dig for the combo. In addition to that, I'll also be trying out some Kinnins to see if that is finally a Kinnin that we can run. It'd be very good to play. I am quite interested though, so this is something which is an interesting point here. Is Kinnin does an adventure card violate the Gigantha rule text? I have to look that up now I'm thinking about it. Because we might not have to play Kinnin then if we can't. Aside from that, there is a ton of stuff in this set that's obviously going to be played in Commander and other things. I'm looking forward to putting Soul Search as a 2-mana Thoughtseize in the sideboard. Dry the Canal might be another answer for Controlia decks. Yeah. I don't think I'll be running Leyline of the Guild Pact. A lot of people in the store I know have asked me about this card. I think, yes, it's definitely powerful, definitely interesting. I think it might see play in some very fun decks, but I definitely will not be playing it. As well as that, one other thing I will say I'll be trying out is World Soul's Rage as in Timeless. I think that could be very good. Buy back your fetch lands, buy back your cycle lands, so stuff like that. But all I have a updated list I want to try out. Aside from that, there's a few things that might see play in other formats. Like, obviously I've talked about Insidious Roots. No More Lies as well, I should say. I'm putting that in the main deck. I forgot that was on here. There's so much good stuff here that I'm going to have a laugh with and try out. But, as I said, the power level of the set looks very interesting. There's a lot of power in the uncommon slot, which I'm a huge fan of, and I'm definitely going to be trying out. Big issue, I think, as well, is that a lot of this stuff is very competitively costed. The other one I think will be interesting to try out. I genuinely think that Urgent Necropsy might be a pretty decent card for Commander. Now, I know a lot of people are like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. But I have to say this is just a temporary rant I know it's not the Commander episode, but my god, Commander players need to get over the premise of, oh, I don't want to exile stuff in my graveyard because I can never get it back. I mean, I'm sorry, if you're exiling your, your ramp spells, if you've got a, in mono green deck, if you play your Eternal Witness, you're not going to play an Eternal Witness to buy back a Cultivate. You're going to buy back your killer end spells. So exiling random one-use cards... no, I'm not going to go into the full rant. There's a lot of stuff in Commander that is slowly driving me crazy. But looking at the set in itself, I think that we're definitely going to see a lot of interesting stuff involved with the Niv Mizzet deck. There's going to be definitely a lot more sideboard options. But the big one I wanted to discuss while I'm on here is the new Niv Mizzet, the Niv Mizzet Guild Pact. And yeah, I don't think this one is going to see play in 60 card constructed. It's another card because basically it's another card that will go in your 99. For those who don't know, it's a 6/6, so it's bigger than Supreme. It has protection from multicolored, and it has the ability that whenever it deals combat damage to a player, it deals X damage to any target. Target player draws X cards, you gain X life, where X is the different number of different colored pairs among permanents you control that are exactly 2 colors. So, key things for this card: it doesn't do anything on ETB unless you can give it. You need to give it haste. Now, I've said before, Supreme's ability to buy back spells from the graveyard, great away if you have excess mana, is great. This card doesn't do anything immediately. Also, protection from multicolored is like, unless we are in a mirror match against a Niv Mizzet deck, I do not see this doing anything in 60 card combat. One of the reasons Supreme and General Furious Roderick are so synonymous in my decks, and one of the reasons I love them so much, is protection from monocolored, because so many decks want the most efficient removal, so they don't put multicolored removal in because they're like, oh, what if I don't draw a red and a black mana? Well, I mean, best example of this, why I think this is a thing, is Rakdos Midrange and Pioneer and Explorer is one of the most played decks. They recently got Molten Collapse, which is great Planeswalker removal. They don't run that. They still run Go for the Throat because it's easier to cast. This dies to Doomblade, dies to Go to the Throat, it dies to all the easy removal spells. And as I said before, you only get it when you attack. There's no other way to trigger it. I don't think it'll see play. Maybe in a sideboard, in a frisky deck. But let me put it this way. I joked when Supreme was spoiled that Supreme created the tag team between the two Nivs where you had to choose to reload or rebuy. This guy, he's not going to make them trios champions. This is the Spike Dudley of the Niv Mizzets, and all due respect, I love Spike Dudley. I was a big Dudley Boy stan. I'm not shitting on him, I apologize. But basically this is like what I said in that regard. He's not a credible part of the team. He's their fun mascot that does cool stuff. Except this one is a very fringe niche thing that should only be used for certain smaller points. With that in mind though, it's a pretty decent body, but again, I can't see this honestly being used 60 cards. The only place in the 99 of my main decks where I would consider this would be my all creature deck, which I'm repurposing into a different style of deck that I'll go through later, because that one is guaranteed to have multiple permanents. Basically, I put it in this way: if you draw the Niv Mizzet, if you've answered all the threats, you've played your Vanishing Verses, you've deployed stuff, on average, when I've been testing, since this card was spoiled when I've been recording these matches, I have maybe 2 or 3 permanents on the battlefield that are 2 multicolored. So, you know, we have an Edgar, maybe a Voice of Resurgence, and maybe a Saheeli. Sorry, because this was me playing Historic. So if I resolve the Niv, if it doesn't get killed by monocolored efficient removal, then I get to swing with it, then I get to hit the player, I might draw 3 cards. That's good. Drawing 3 cards is great. But there's so many ifs in that statement. And honestly, I don't think it will see that much play. Yeah, as I said, it's definitely the weakest, and I can... Yeah, honestly, it feels like a lower powered version of the Niv Mizzets. Now, with that in mind though, we have... Oh, apologies. Just got a bit of a... So, right, we've talked about Markov Mana. Apologies for the bit of silence there. As you can see here, we are playing... one thing I'm trying out as well with regards to this is I'm trying to play at 1.5 speed here, just to give a bit more emphasis on what's happening on the board. Someone did point out, one of my friends, that particularly with the fast aggressive matchups, that 2 times speed was like watching, you know... watching vintage gameplay of like, wait, what happened? And so forth. But in regards to this we got a good showing from the deck. Right, we'll keep talking till we'll start commentating on the matches when we get to the second match here, but yes, Markov Mana is landing tomorrow, or the day of this video being released, if I can remember my names correctly. And I am beyond super stoked and crazy to go for it. Like, I desperately want to play it so badly. So I look forward to some deck techs coming in the future. Right, so let's get some commentary on the last week here. We keep a controversial hand here, but we do have Beanstalk and stuff going forward. I'm going to resolve Beanstalk immediately. The reason I do that is obviously we get a card draw, but also we got 2 Paradise Druids, so if we get hit with removal, it's not a big deal. I'm immediately going to take out a Waste Not here. We draw a card from the Leyline Binding. Waste Not obviously leads to a very discard heavy deck, like you see here, Virus Beetle. I'm going to get rid of Clarion. So what we can do now is we can just deploy a Paradise Druid, and I'm going to pass with potential to use Drown in the Loch. Except I forget that I'm not playing Timeless, so our opponent doesn't actually have anything in their graveyard yet. Very big miss by me. They have Edicts there. Tithing Blade's a good Edict effect. But, controversially, we'll get rid of the blue here. Now we need another land here for something. We draw a tap land, I didn't specify clearly enough. So let's drop the Paradise Druid, and we'll pass the turn. Opponent appears to be mono black discard or mono black. Appears to be a matchup between mono black and potentially mono black. Right, we've got a discard here, so we'll get rid of the Drown in the Loch. See what our opponent plays next. They don't have anything, so with that in mind, I'm going to choose to play Teferi, Hero Dominaria. We'll draw a card of casting him from that, and then we can plus Teferi to draw cards. We were looking hopefully for something that would give us instant speed action, but we don't have that, so we'll pass. They're going to sacrifice the Hopeless Nightmare to scry 2. Something as well people understand with Planeswalkers, I was saying this to a friend of mine who's pretty new to Magic, is you've got to look at them as well as potential life gains. If your opponent, like here, can't push lethal, they're just going to hit Teferi. And you should never aim for the ultimate, but basically we should just constantly be looking for ways to just get more value out of it there. Tithing Blade is going to transform here. They're going to craft it. And they craft it into something that gives us... Right, with that in mind, we scry. Let's get a Fable of the Mirror Breaker down. Or an Elish Norn. I'm going to go with Elish Norn here. We draw a card off that. We can go for the Molten Collapse if we want. I'm going to remove the Gifted Aetherborn here. Plus Teferi, draw a card. We can hold up a Growth Spiral here. Let's thin out the deck with Fable Passage. So we untap our Tri-lands to give us access to the Growth Spiral. Our opponent goes for Hopeless Nightmare, forgetting Elish Norn is Ruthless. They play Gifted Aetherborn and another Gifted Aetherborn, so they have a solid wall here. I don't Growth Spiral because I'm just too slow there. We draw a Leyline Binding, which will be double activated with the Elish Norn here. We get a Fable. We play a Paradise Druid. Go to combat and we'll pass back. And then we'll untap 2 lands here. We need a white source, so let's get that clear again. They sacrificed the Hopeless Nightmare trying to scry. I think they were... Let's see what they do with that scry. 1 top, 1 bottom, so we'll see if they got any answers from that. On their turn, they attack Teferi down again. We're going to Leyline Binding here, draws us a card. Double exile now because Elish Norn's here, so we'll exile Gifted Aetherborn and the other Gifted Aetherborn. And our opponent concedes, yeah. Norn is a great inclusion in Niv decks. Double Niv activations are fantastic. Honestly, I'm not sure what to do here. I'm going to take out Valky, bring in a Vito. I'm expecting that we're going to see Invoke Despair, which is another card I have issues with because black should not be answering enchantments. But of course, we need it because Commander is a thing. Elish Norn is a fantastic inclusion in decks. I think she definitely deserves the inclusion, particularly in lists like this where you run the Omnath, double draw ETB, but also, particularly since we don't have access to fetch lands, one thing Norn does really well is if you have Omnath and Norn on the field, every land drops gets to the second Omnath activation, which for those of you who don't know, first activation is 4 life, second activation is 4 mana, then it's 4 damage. We very rarely get 4 damage, but it's pretty good. Well, this hand proves exactly what I was just talking about. All 5 colors and action, so yes, let's go. We'll get a Triumph down that gives us access to the Assassin's Trophy if we get scared of anything. Nothing too scary there, so let's play another Triumph. Or no. Sorry, we play this to hold up potential... Oh, they have green in their deck. I didn't know that. Obviously, I recorded this a while back. There's no point in Assassin's Trophy, I don't know, but I actually want to answer it. I want to keep their devotion down. It's controversial here, but definitely better if I just keep them down and just keep going. Right, let's get Fable of the Mirror Breaker online. Give them a target for their removal. Yep, Murderous Rider, interesting choice to use it on the Fable token. I'm not sure if they're expecting me to not have access to anything, but here, we're not going to decline here because this hand is beyond stack. So, we're going to play the Catcher Triumph and immediately take out the Phyrexian Arena. We don't want them gaining any kind of card advantage. Our opponent plays out the Murderous Rider and passes back. We transform Fable of the Mirror Breaker. We can play Omnath here. He'll draw us a card, we'll play a land, gain 4 life, and we'll see what our opponent does. It's interesting here as a threat assessment. I think Omnath has to go, but an active Mirror Breaker Reflections would be insane. So they force us to Edict here. I'm going to sack Reflections. Our opponent passes, so they don't have anything. Interesting. So I'm considering here to deploy Norn. I forget about the double activation, so this is fantastic. So this comes into play. We'll play 2 life. We get double activation off Omnath. We'll play the Paradise Druid as Edict Protection, and we can put Yorion into our hand. Now we can just swing in at Liliana, and they trade with Murderous Rider. So Murderous Rider shuffles back into their deck. They play Waste Not. They activate Liliana. I'm going to discard the Drown of the Lock, give them a draw. I don't want to give them bodies to protect Liliana. They play Go Blank, forcing us to discard our hand. They get a zombie and a creature there. Well, we get to the combat here. We're going to just attack in with both here. Norn has Vigilance because reasons, I guess. We'll just play the land here, gain 4 life, and get 4 mana. Our opponent plays a Tithing Blade, forgetting Norn prevents ETBs, or potentially just wanting to craft a thing to try and drain us a bit. But every land drop here is 4 life, so they're pretty much struggling. Ooh, Akonor's the... Oh, double Niv activation as discussed. So boom. Reload! Double reload. 2 cards. And 3 cards. Now we have access to everything, so let's Vanishing Verse, and our opponent concedes, which is sad, but we did get to see the double activation of Niv Mizzet. So, final one here. This is our obligatory someone just being a swear word. Basically our opponent just slow rolls us and quits, which is super frustrating because I'm going to say this right. If you're playing, I'll just let this show it for itself and we'll go fully into it. But if you're playing a deck that specifically, you know, if you're playing Control and you get mad because you can't counter everything your opponent plays. Oh, it wasn't Control. Oh no, this was, I forgot to swap this out. Yeah. So this is the aggro deck here, and Omnaths are the bane of the aggro deck's existence. So I'll let this one play out. Look forward to next week. We'll have new decks. So we'll start with a deck tech based on what we're doing with it, and then we'll jump into gameplay. Enjoy this final match.